Se atti man tugina nakkumigu. Ibisa ang hei monchiti ang ogi makka na gawi chiongito. Se atti man tuiga ganoini mak higasoini minam. Se atti man toi monchiti ang mantugi nakkinagegu ya enki nakkinagegu ya penimun tagu on gese man tuiga tiga na mo yang indien mantuga ya en kamigi en gese atti man tu tas kinagegu saweni missinami go itu kais na me so wechimigu nun chi higanachi itu in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'd like to start out by thanking the elder for opening us up in a good way. I want to acknowledge all the elders that are present today, the family, Melissa Normand, George Robinson, Cambria Harris, Cambria Harris, Kera Harris, Kristen Witwicki, Kirsten Witwicki, leaders, Grand Chiefs, Minister Miller. Thank you for joining today, because what we're discussing today, once again, is the ongoing genocide against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. This is a nonpartisan issue. This is a human rights issue. This is a life and death issue. We have had a national inquiry that was released in 2015 with a failure to act. And I'm glad to have Minister Miller here. And I've been working with Minister Miller to ensure that his government finds immediate resources for families, for searches. Now, I understand that the family has requested a search for their mother in the Brady landfill, and I understand through talking with family groups that that might not be feasible. But at the very least, the city needs to immediately stop using that landfill for garbage so that the remains of loved ones can rest in peace. We need money for searching. We need money for prevention, like the Red Dress Alert, like money for shelters, emergency placements. We need immediate resources to mitigate the violence that is being perpetrated against our women, girls, and Two-Spirit. I am honored to also be joined by Hilda Anderson-Pierce, who has been an advocate for families. And I also join in their calls for justice. It's time for the government to act. And as I said, I'm glad that I'm joined by the minister today, who I will be working with to ensure resources are immediately provided to families and communities. But with that, I would like to invite the family members to come share with all of you today. Cambria Harris, daughter of Morgan Harris.
Hello. I'm absolutely heartbroken and utterly shocked at what is happening to our people, and what is happening is an ongoing genocide time and time again. The government constantly, and the system that was put in place that was meant to protect and harm, or protect these women from harm, completely fails them time and time again, miserably. Last night, I sat down with members of the Winnipeg Police Service, and I feel very wrong, and I am so heartbroken to be able to say this. And it shouldn't be me saying this, but there has been some misinformation going around the public saying that these women are at Brady landfill, and that's incorrect. They believe that these 3 women, Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, and Buffalo Woman, which I find so beautiful that the elders gave her a name. They believe that they are in the Prairie Green landfill, and the police won't do anything. And they say that they can't search because it's not feasible. Is human life not feasible? Time and time again, our Indigenous women and brothers and sisters have to come here, and we have to shout, and we have to raise our voices begging for change and begging for justice for our people. And that is wrong. I should not have to stand here today, and I should not have to come here and be so mad and beg so that you will find and bring our loved ones home. My mother didn't pass away with a home, so let's pay her the respect that she deserves by finally giving her one that's not a resting place at the Prairie Green landfill, and for these other women as well. I think it's disgusting. The police are trying to cover themselves because they know that they fail our women time and time again, and it needs to stop. Your government started this genocide, and now it is your turn to help us end it. Miigwech.
I'd now like to call Kyra Harris, daughter of Morgan Harris.
Hello. This is a very unfair situation. I do not agree with how this is being handled. These are people who you are leaving alone in the landfill. These are human beings. How can you even fathom the idea to leave them there? These women are deserving of a proper resting place, not to be left alone in a landfill in the dead of winter. If you want to respect and honor them, stop making excuses as to why you can't find them. You can. You are just refusing to. You are the police. You are here to help our community and give right to the citizens. How is this doing your job? If you can't find them, then why haven't you asked for help? Why can't you ask for help nationwide rather than just having a small amount of people conduct the searches? All of your reasons are just meaningless excuses in this important case. These are 4 women. One you have found, but now you refuse to find the last 3. What is the reasoning for that? We have the people who are willing to help and do the work for you, but you are not accepting it. What is the thought process behind this? This is ridiculous, and you can't keep withholding this search. And if you won't look for them, then we will. Thank you.
Right. I'd now like to welcome Chief Kyra Wilson, Chief of Long Plains First Nation.
Just want to say good morning. My name is Kyra Wilson. I'm the Chief for Long Plains First Nation. I just want to thank the elder for the prayer, as well as everyone here that's in the room. You know, you're here for our families, and I'm just really grateful. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. For me, I just want to say that we have a very clear message here today, and that message is that we need the supports when it comes to our missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit. Not only do we need those supports and services for the families, but we need them for the communities. And I just want to say thank you for Minister Miller being here today. It's very important that we shout out loud to what it is that we're needing, because we've been saying this for many years. And once again, we are here today to talk about missing Indigenous women. And it's so hurtful that we are always having to talk about the same issue. For me, the last few days has been extremely difficult, you know, trying to navigate everything that has, you know, happened and all the information that's coming, and trying to support, you know, the families here today. And actually, this is my family. You know, I'm really sad to have to be here today to speak on this matter. And the clear message is that we need those supports and services. We have 231 calls to justice. We need searches, we need supports, and it needs to start now. There hasn't been much that has been done when it comes to missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Two-Spirit. There has been money identified for these supports, for these searches, and something needs to be done today. And I'm really hoping that, you know, the federal government will act today, and it should have been yesterday. You know, we've had so many women have gone missing, and it just hurts my heart to have to stand here, especially when we're talking about 2 women from Long Plain First Nation, and it's very clear that there are supports that are needed. And I just want to say that right now we have communities that are hurting, our nations are hurting again, and we just need that support and that love and that respect and that acknowledgement. So I just want to say miigwech for everyone being here today, and I really hope that we will be able to have a clear idea of what is going to take place when it comes to a plan of action for our missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls in Two-Spirit. Miigwech. Thank you.
We're ready to take questions.
I don't mind. I'll give the chief a moment to have a drink of water, and then perhaps I'd like to ask her a question, if that's all right. If you want to come to the microphone, please. Given that you have access to a federal decision maker today, yes. I mean, you talked broadly about needing action,
Yep.
but I wonder if you can speak to perhaps your top 2 or 3 priorities in terms of what you would like to see the federal government do differently to make a difference in situations like this.
Well, if I'm speaking specifically about Long Plain First Nation, I know many communities are needing supports and services when it comes to the safety of community members, especially our missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Two-Spirit. You know, for Long Plain, we are needing a 24/7 safe space for our women in the community. It is an immediate need that we need today. You know, a lot of our community members are going to urban cities for any resources, and if at any point they need to come home, they need to have a place that they feel safe in. And that would be, you know, priority for Long Plain. In terms of another priority, it would be the searches. So when any police service, in this case would be Winnipeg Police Service, have an idea that one of our women is in a landfill, and whether that's the Brady landfill or the Prairie Green landfill, and this was just information that was shared with us yesterday, it doesn't matter which landfill it is, searches need to be done. No matter how big that search is going to be or how long it's going to take, we need to start that search, and we need to figure out a plan on how we're going to do that. And so for me, the 2 priorities would be searches and a safe space for our Indigenous women and girls in Two-Spirit.
You talk about the searches. Ms. Gazan said at a minimum they need to stop using these landfills right now.
Yes.
I mean, it's so difficult to talk about. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But would that be sufficient? Do you believe that is a possibility at this point?
To stop using the landfills?
Yeah.
Anything is possible. If government or police, have the will to do the things that are right to our Indigenous communities, to our nations, they can do it. Anything is possible.
You also talk. I wonder if you could just reflect a little bit about the impact on the community of something this terrible, and trying to provide people within the community the supports that they need right now.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about Long Plain, the focus and priority has been mental health supports, cultural supports, and just really ensuring that everyone feels that they have someone to talk to, a place to gather. So we did have a sacred fire, for 4 days, and we had a space in the community where everyone was able to come together. But we also need that for our off-reserve membership, because that focus was for on-reserve. When we look at any funding or supports, it's always about on-reserve membership, but we have off-reserve membership because we don't have enough supports or services in the community, so people are moving away from our community, and that's, every First Nations community. So we need to have that funding and those supports for on-reserve as well as off-reserve membership, and that is a very clear issue that we're dealing with, because whenever we receive any supports or services, it's only for on-reserve, but we have thousands of off-reserve membership that need supports as well.
I can't help wonder how you are managing. I mean, I see everybody here in this incredible moment of sadness, and I can only think how strange it must be to be in this place right now, and you're trying to advocate for your community and dealing with your own feelings. How are you?
Yeah, thank you. I just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and I'm just really trying to be strong for our community, for our families, and just putting that strong and brave face that people need. And it's been a struggle for the last few days. It's an up and down roller coaster of emotions, but it can't be anything compared to what these women are feeling today who have lost a mother.
Very sorry for all you lost.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thank you. The regional chief? Are we good? Are you wanting to speak, Minister? We speak later. Okay. Perhaps, Mr. Miller, it might just be worth, given that there were some criticisms of the federal government, that if there's something that you'd like to say about the supports that you're willing to offer at this moment?
This is the first time I meet the family, so I think it's uncomfortable for them to have my back turned to them, because the government has turned their backs on them for centuries. I think as we recognize the failure of the federal government to keep these women safe, it's important to realize that there are women today that are in the same vulnerable place that these women were, and that continues. So I'll have a chance to meet with the family later and speak on what supports are needed from the federal government. But there's also something that these people who are speaking out today have been saying for a long time, and that this doesn't begin and end in one moment in time, or the accusation and trial of one particular individual. There are steps along the way where the federal, provincial, municipal governments have successively failed Indigenous women and girls and continue to fail them. It means that as officials, we got to screw our heads on straighter and get our acts together. This tragedy is ongoing. Winnipeg is the epicenter of it. It would be wildly inappropriate for me today to talk about the federal investments, the work we've done with Member of Parliament Leah Gazan and her forceful advocacy to get a 24-hour safe space in Winnipeg that should have been there ages ago. But realizing that this is a systemic issue that has very real repercussions on the women standing behind me today is important, I think, for Canadians to realize. The work that the federal government is called upon to do is multifold and complex. It's reforming a broken child welfare system. It's making sure that there is equal, if not better, education on reserve, that there are massive investments by successive governments into housing, making sure we are holding our provincial and municipal counterparts to account in searching for people the way they would do for non-Indigenous people were they were to go to missing, and the public outcry perhaps would be much greater. So there's no normalizing this away. This is happening today, and it is an absolute shame that a person like me has to stand here today and tell people and cannot guarantee people that this will not happen again. But that's the reality. How do we move forward on this? It starts with the conversations that I'll perhaps have with the family a little later. But going back to my colleagues and fighting, continuing to fight, and I know their hearts are in it, but for systemic reform of the justice system, continued investment into housing, making sure there are safe spaces in community, making sure the child welfare system that is broken is reformed in a way that reflects the inherent rights of the people standing behind me. These are all tied together. Someone that has a disproportionate incarceration rate, a group of people that have a disproportionate incarceration rate that is unjust and unfair, see their children ripped out of the system and make themselves vulnerable and put in this situation that the people are facing today. So these are big issues, but they do have a very real and powerful impact on the people behind me in a very painful moment of tragedy for this country and for the city of Winnipeg, and most importantly, for the people standing behind me. So thank you.
There's no more pressure to speak.
I actually forgot one more thing to say. So last night, as I sat down with the members of the Winnipeg Police Service, they had the nerve to put together this little PowerPoint of all the reasons why they won't search. And I didn't see one point on there saying why they should. There wasn't a single point. And it was basically to say, we failed you and we're not going to do anything. And I think that's disgusting. They took my blood sample, the homicide unit, back in September, 5 months after my mother went missing. There was a CBC News article 1 month after she went missing, around when Rebecca Contois was found. All of the red flags were there. And you're telling me that you're 7 months late on your job and that you don't know what the hell you're doing? And like my sister said, if you won't do something, me and my Indigenous brothers and sisters will. Because this is a national human rights issue. And it happens year after year, and I see hundreds and hundreds of missing and murdered Indigenous women's posters. And now I have to stand here and speak on behalf of 4 women and everyone else who was lost behind that. And that's horrible. And this ongoing genocide and this cycle of violence against our women needs to end. Thank you.